So this new card was just spoiled. Repudiate.
Repudiate. Repudiate.
Repudiate. Repudiate. Refuse to accept. Reject. Alright. Counter target activated ability or triggered ability. Mana abilities can't be targeted. Sounds simple enough, right? Counter an activated ability or triggered ability, you can't target mana abilities. Cool, fine. Alright, so picture this. You're playing your new Ravnica Allegiance standard. Your opponent's got the new Domri raid out, a Llanowar Elves or two, and you just know that they've got a hasty Carnage Tyrant coming out. You don't want that, nobody wants that. So they start tapping their mana, they tap their Llanowar Elves for green, you go, aha! Repudiate! No. They say, look at the cards, mana abilities can't be targeted. Yeah, okay. That's fine, you carry on. I +1 my Domri to add some green mana. Then your opponent just pauses and they look at you. You go, yeah, okay. Because you know you can't target mana abilities. And Domri's ability is mana. No, wrong. But it's too late. So they cast their Carnage Tyrant. And it's got Riot now. And they go, ha, give it haste. And you go, aha, I counter that triggered ability. No. Your opponent shakes their head. That's not a triggered ability. You go, what? Judge? And then you quit Magic forever because the rules are just too complicated. Okay, but let's help that to not happen. So let's talk about what are activated abilities, triggered abilities, and mana abilities. What does this card actually do? So let's talk about activated abilities first. So an activated ability has a cost, it has a colon, and then it has the effect. The colon is the most important bit, just like in our digestive system. Anyway, the colon is what tells you that it's an activated ability. So what happens is you pay the cost, all of the cost, then that ability goes on the stack. Then your opponent can respond. So let's look at an example. We've got Devkaran Dissident, very simple creature, 2 mana 2/2, 4 and a green, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This is an activated ability. You've got the cost, 4 and a green, you've got the colon after the cost, and then you've got the effect. So for example, let's say your opponent doesn't like this distant for some reason, and decides to cast Shock. They want to kill it. You go, in response, I pay 4 and a green, and give it +2/+2 until end of turn. They go, oh no, now it's a 4/4 and Shock doesn't kill it. Well, let's do it the other way. You've attacked, they decided not to block, then you go 4 and a green, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. That goes on the stack, and then in response, your opponent goes, Shock. You've run out of mana, and Devkaran Distant is still a 2/2, its ability is still on the stack. Shock goes on top of it, your distant dies. Womp womp. Now let's look at one that's got a little bit more to it. Conclave Guildmage. Still, 2 mana 2/2. Green, tap, colon, creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. And similar, 5 and a white, tap, colon, create a 2/2 green and white elf knight creature token with vigilance. So this is still the same. We've got cost, colon, effect. But this one has 2 different types of cost that you need to pay, and they're separated by the comma. So in this case, for the first ability, you need to pay a green, and you need to be able to tap the Guildmage. So you can't use this ability if it's summoning sick, for example, because you can't pay the tap cost. Now let's say that you want to give your creatures trample. You pay your green, you tap your dude, and your opponent goes, wait, I cast Artful Takedown, and I'll tap your Guildmage and give something else -2, -4. Now you can't activate that ability. It's too late, opponent, because you've already paid the cost of tapping the Guildmage. Your opponent can't cast spells whilst you're in the middle of paying costs. You need to pay all of the costs, then the ability after the colon goes on the stack, and then your opponent can respond. Similarly, if they try to cast Artful Takedown, say at the beginning of your combat or at the end of your turn, they want to tap down your Guild Mage and kill something else, you can respond to that, assuming you can pay the mana, by tapping your Guild Mage. Then the Guild Mage's ability will go on the stack first, it will resolve, and then it will be extra tapped. It's just tapped, it's fine. So that brings us to our next bit, triggered abilities. So triggered abilities have a condition, and when that condition is met, the ability goes on the stack. So for example, let's look at our old friend Burglar Rat. 2 mana 1/1, and it says when Burglar Rat enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So we've got the condition, when Burglar Rat enters the battlefield. We've got a comma, and then we've got the effect. Each opponent discards a card. So this is similar to activated abilities, except that you have less say in when it happens. So you cast Burglar Rat, it resolves, it then enters the battlefield. The ability of each opponent discards a card goes on the stack. Your opponent can respond. If they don't, they have to discard a card. Simple. However, unlike activated abilities, there's a little bit more variety in the way that these are worded. Triggered abilities can start with when, they can start with whenever, or they can start with at. So take for example Beast Whisperer. Beast Whisperer says, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. So this one doesn't start with when, it starts with whenever. It's got the comma and it's got the effect. So this one is still a triggered ability, but it triggers more than once, hopefully. You cast a creature spell, and then Beast Whisperer's triggered ability goes on the stack, your opponent can respond. Then we've got our at triggered abilities. So for example, let's look at Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice. So flying, mentor, blah blah blah. At the beginning of combat on your turn, comma, stuff happens. You choose up to one target creature you control. Till end of turn, it gets +2/+0, gets trample if it's red, and vigilance if it's white. More importantly, what we're looking at is at the beginning of combat on your turn. So this is a triggered ability that triggers at a specific point during your turn, at the beginning of combat. You go to the beginning of combat, you target one of your creatures, and then this ability goes on the stack. Your opponent can respond. And that's basically it. That's triggered abilities. Now we get to the juicy part. Mana abilities. Mana abilities are kind of annoying. Take a look at Llanowar Elves. It's got tap, colon, add green. Cool, an activated ability. It's got a cost, the tap, it's got the colon, and it's got the effect, add green. Brilliant. It goes on the stack, I can respond to it. No. Magic is a game of exceptions, of course. So this is a mana ability, and mana abilities don't use the stack and can't be responded to. What makes this a mana ability is 3 qualifiers. Number 1, it adds mana. That's pretty obvious. Number 2, it doesn't target. And number 3, it's not a loyalty ability. So let's have another look at Llanowar Elves. Does it add mana? Yes, obviously. Number 2, does it target? There's no word target anywhere in the text box, so no. Number 3, is it a loyalty ability? No, Llanowar Elves isn't a planeswalker, as far as I know. So this has met all 3 of our criteria. It's a mana ability. You cannot respond to it with Repudiate with this new card. Let's continue our scenario that I laid out at the beginning. Let's say your opponent's got the new Domri. They go +1. Add red or green. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains Riot. In our first scenario, you went, shrug, it's a mana ability, can't respond to that, says on the card. Aha. But now you know our 3 criteria. Let's check them again. 1. Does it add mana? Yes. Okay. 2. Does it target? Add red or green. Don't see the word target, so no. 3. Is it a loyalty ability? Yes. It's on a planeswalker, and we are activating it by adding a loyalty counter. This does use the stack and can be responded to. And it is an activated ability. Take another look. Add 1 loyalty, : effect. This can be responded to with our new card. But let's say you forgot that, and then your opponent casts their Carnage Tyrant and they want to give it Riot. And you just know that they're going to give it haste. You're at 7, you've got no blockers, what are you going to do? So you want to use your new card. I've got to learn how to pronounce that. Repudiate. You have your Repudiate. Yeah. And you want to counter the haste triggered ability, or the +1/+1 counter. Basically you want to get rid of Riot. Unfortunately, you can't. So Riot does not give the creature a triggered ability. Riot is actually what's called a replacement effect. It modifies how the creature enters the battlefield. Take a look at the reminder text. So here's maybe I should pick a different card. So here's a goblin. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with Riot. And the reminder text says, this creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. Notice it does not say, when this creature enters the battlefield, choose counter or haste. That would be a triggered ability that you could respond to. Instead, the Riot mechanic modifies how the creature enters the battlefield. It enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. This means that it is not a triggered ability, Repudiate cannot counter it, and you cannot respond to it. And that's about everything. So I hope that you learned something from this and that you won't get yourself into the situation of not knowing what you can and can't counter with Repudiate. Yeah. So if you like this video, give it a like, all of that usual YouTube stuff. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.